Let's talk about making our tax code fairer and more competitive.
They are keeping the government closed as hostage because they want to negotiate I don't even know what anymore.
Using their theory, we would have another one of these periods of bedlam here in Washington right before the most important purchasing season any time during the year, Christmas.
Okay. I want to bring our panel in right now because the question is, you look at the polls and the question's been answered. Just how bad has this thing gotten here? Forget about for America, for the Republican Party. We're talking historic levels. Dominic Carter, political journalist and author. We'll have Dominic's interview with Mr. Dinkins here coming up in a few minutes. Richard St. Paul, Republican strategist, former vice chair for the National Black Republican Association, and our senior political correspondent, Andrew Whitman. You've seen polls, and then you've seen polls. We're talking Gallup, Wall Street Journal here. We're not talking fly-by-night. In the history of conducting the poll, Republicans have never fared worse. On Tea Party, on blame for what's going down, on every single metric you do, Richard, this is bad, bad news. I argue this is good news because the Republicans have a full year before the midterms to do something about it, and a good news if Republicans finally want to draw on the line in the sand and not follow the crazies off the cliff. But nonetheless, they're blamed for the shutdown, and there doesn't seem to be two buts about it.
Well, listen, let's look at what matters here. First of all, Congress approval rating is the lowest it's ever been. It's around 11%. That's
party.
That's
party approval.
I'm talking about Democrat. I'm talking about Congress. Period. Okay, but when you say Republican, when American people blame Republicans for the shutdown, now who are you polling? Now, when you go into the Tea Party districts, they are in favor of the government shutdown. They say, yes, shut down the government.
You're not, forget about the Tea Party lunatics who took you over the cliff. I'm talking about the mainstream Americans, the undecideds, the people who decide elections on a national level.
And these people do.
But
these people who elected the Tea Party members of the Republican Party decide the election.
But you ever want to win another presidential election in your lifetime?
I absolutely do, and I think we will win one. But that's off in 2016. We're talking about now. When you ask a question about the American people blaming Republicans, and is that going to hurt the Republican Party? I say no, it's not, especially in the House, because folks who elected the members
Andrew,
to the party,
to Richard's point, and what he says is true. But here's my thing: you've seen things in the last week here that say not all Republicans are signing up that it has to be this way. You're seeing business interest groups here that are now going to challenge these folks here. You're seeing Republicans who are speaking out loud. You're seeing people going after Ted Cruz by name. We're seeing a change, and the poll just confirmed the frustration.
Well, you see, we went through all the poll numbers, and you went through all the poll numbers with Marsha Blackburn. John Sununu. I interviewed John Sununu at the debate at Hofstra last year. He was flacking for Mitt Romney. John Sununu is out with a quote saying it's time for someone to act like a grown-up in the process. Now, this is a guy who...
And he's talking about the Tea Party specifically and about Ted Cruz.
This is a guy who's used to throwing red meat around when need be, but not usually at his own party. And there's the quote. I couldn't believe it when I saw that it was coming from John Sununu. He's such a good party guy that it seemed strange that he would make the attack that internal. Now, Richard, you're right that it's the voters in those districts that are keeping the House in the hands of the Tea Party. My question for you is, how do you get your party out of that ditch? Because it's helping you win those 40 to 80 House seats.
That you'll win anyway.
But you're not.
You'll win anyway, even if you don't have a Tea Party.
You're not going to win the Senate or the White House with that being the dominant force in your party.
Here's where we are. At the end of the day, this is what needs to happen. The president cannot adopt the same policy that he adopts towards terrorists, which is, I will not negotiate.
Time out.
No,
with all due respect, Richard, he can and he did and he won.
No, he hasn't won anything. As John Boehner said, this is not a game.
Okay.
There is no winning. You know who loses?
The
American people.
In every game,
if the president doesn't negotiate.
You play college ball.
Absolutely.
In every game, after 60 minutes, you look at a scoreboard. Somebody wins, somebody loses. I'll argue, Dominic, America loses, we go over the cliff here. We lose every day with the shutdown. But at the end of the day, somebody gets blamed. And I'm looking at historic polls. In decades of doing it, they've never seen anything like this where they have turned. And when people say, which party do you trust more on a generic level, Democrats are winning by more than 10 points. If the midterms were today, they say, the Democrats would take the House back. I know there's more than a year, okay, so I'm not getting into that. But it is clear, game, set, match, the president won this. Now it's just, can you have basically, concession on this without humiliation?
the president right now, Richard, is looking like the only adult in the room. I understand it takes two to tango, and you need both the parties and so on in the House. But Richard, if they are doing the job for the Democrats, they better be glad that the midterm elections are not right now. And if they keep it up,
the president's the most grateful guy, because how bad was the rollout for Obamacare?
That's right. That's right.
And you know what?
That's right.
The public's opinion of Obamacare is
Great
8
point.
points better today than
Great
it was
point.
when he launched it.
Great
if
point.
the Republicans just shut up, they could have attacked him over all the
it could have been 2
craziness
weeks
with the
of
website.
negative overall on Obamacare.
And legitimate, too.
But
Yes.
here's where we are. We've been here before in the government shutdown. The difference now is that Newt Gingrich didn't have social media and the coverage to fight back against the blame game
That's
here.
true.
As the government shutdown goes on, you will see public opinion start to change and say, you know, we're not blaming Republicans just by themselves. We think it's the
You
president's
think
fault
he's right?
too.
I think the Republicans keep getting worse and worse because
I think
now
it's a
you're going to
different
see
game.
stuff
I-
that
it's a
it
different
I
is.
think he's right about the difference between now and when Newt Gingrich was Speaker. I think if you didn't have the Fox News and the Twitter and all that, the Republicans would be, you know, headed for Canada. I mean, that's how low
Richard
their
is one of
numbers would
those
be.
moderate Republicans that's
No,
caught between a
moderate,
rock and a hard place
You
right
can't
now.
say that out loud.
That's okay.
Keep it in the green room. Okay. Now, the one thing, hopefully, the four of us don't debate on is that defaulting on debt limit, that's a bad thing. But we don't speak for everyone in this country, not even everybody on Capitol. We come back, we'll be joined by an expert who doesn't have a political dog in this fight, who will explain why defaulting on the debt limit, it's a very, very bad thing for the economy. Stay with us. That